Welcome to Mindful Mastery. My name is Nick, and sleep is something that is super important for our mental clarity, health, and just not being grumpy in the morning. But we often find ourselves tossing and turning late at night, unable to fall asleep. And for me personally, I hate wasting time. So this is particularly frustrating because I could be using that time on something more productive. So today I'm going to be going over 5 tips that will help you master falling asleep. Tip number 1, move your clock. Now, I personally don't have a clock, but I do have a smartphone. And whenever I get restless, I tend to check that to see what the time is. But whenever you do that, you'll probably end up getting frustrated because it's been 30 minutes and you don't feel like you're any closer to going to sleep. This will then keep you up even longer. And aside from the additional frustration, having a clock near you will give you a reason to open your eyes. But the last thing that you want to do whenever you're trying to fall asleep is move around and open your eyes. So whether you have an alarm clock, a smartphone, or even a sundial, try and move that away from you, on your dresser, on your desk, just somewhere where you'd have to get up to check it so that it's much easier for you to fall asleep because there's no temptation for you to check the time. And this will also make it easier whenever you go to wake up in the morning because you'll have to get up to turn off the alarm. But whenever you're trying to fall asleep, it's important that you try and move as little as possible. Now, yes, you can itch and scratch here and there, although it is good to get into the habit of fighting the itch. Fighting the itch. Fighting the itch. Fighting the itch. So get comfortable and don't move. Tip number 2, avoid caffeine too close to bed. Adenosine is a chemical that is responsible for us becoming tired. And caffeine blocks the did I say adenosine first? If I did not say adenosine makes us tired, and caffeine blocks the adenosine receptors in our brain, which then prevents the onset of sleepiness. But the adenosine continues to build up, which is why after the caffeine wears off, we then have a sudden crash. However, it takes a good amount of time for the caffeine to metabolize in your body, which is why you want to make sure that you avoid caffeine too close to bed. But the confusing part is how close is too close? Because most often I have heard that you need to cut it off 6 hours before bed. But most recently, I've read that it takes 8 to 14 hours for caffeine to metabolize in your body. So what I got from this is that it really just kind of depends on the person. So you need to kind of experiment to see when the latest is that you can drink caffeine without it disturbing your ability to go to sleep. But if you don't like to experiment with that, then I'll just say the earlier the better. Tip number 3, decrease blue light. Another chemical that's responsible for us becoming tired and sleepy is melatonin. And all forms of light inhibit the production of melatonin. Blue light is the highest energy light that we can see, so it causes the most disruption to our production of melatonin. And there are a bunch of different sources of blue light. The primary one is the sun, which helps us to regulate our circadian rhythm, making sure that we stay awake and fall asleep whenever we need to. But now all of our electronics also produce blue light. So if you often find yourself spending your time late at night on your phone or watching TV, then it can be much harder for you to fall asleep because you don't have enough melatonin being produced. I'm not going to say that you need to completely eliminate electronics because I've tried that and it can be nearly impossible to do for longer than a day, but I would recommend trying to reduce it as much as possible. And there are a bunch of apps out there that can help to regulate your screen's blue light production. I personally use Flux, which is available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And if you have an iPhone, then you have Night Shift already installed into your phone. And I'm not for sure whether Androids have something built in or not, but if they don't, then Twilight will work well for you. Tip number 4, make your room like a cave. Now, if you're going about trying to figure out how to fall asleep faster, then you'll probably hear this. And for the most part, I agree with it. You just want to make sure that there are no bears in your cave. No, the point of it is to get your room dark, cool, and quiet. Now, obviously you want it dark because, like I just said, light inhibits the production of melatonin, which will make it harder for you to fall asleep and also reduce the quality of your sleep. Then you want to make sure that it's cool, but not too cold, because we tend to fall asleep faster whenever we're in a cool environment. And the last one, make sure it's quiet. I don't quite agree with. Now, obviously you want to make sure that you avoid any random noises occurring throughout the night, but if you're in an area where that's unavoidable, which I'm sure most of us are, then I would recommend keeping noise going in your room throughout the night. If you have a loud fan, then that serves two purposes: keeping your room cool and drowning out the noise outside of your room. But there are a bunch of apps that provide ambient noise that you can use instead, and I personally just use Spotify and go to an ambient song and set it on repeat throughout the night. But if you're miraculously in an area where noise is not a problem, then quiet is definitely the way to go. Tip number 5, make bedtime routine. This is my favorite and, in my unscientific opinion, most effective tip to help you fall asleep faster. Whenever I went to sleep at the same time and had a routine that triggered to myself to go to sleep, I consistently fell asleep within 15 minutes. Now, this might be difficult for college students because you have a lot of reasons that might change the time that you're able to go to sleep, whether that be partying, hanging out with friends, or studying for an exam. But you need to try and be as consistent as possible because your brain will adapt to that and then start to get tired around the same time every night. And if you can't go to bed at the same time every night, and actually even if you can go to bed at the same time every night, then you should establish a bedtime routine to help trigger to your body that it's time to go to sleep. This can be as simple as going and taking a shower, then brushing your teeth, and listening to the same ambient music each and every night. The key to this is doing it consistently because your brain will then recognize those triggers with the need to start falling asleep. Next week, I'll be talking about cooking tips that every college student should know and how to cook in your dorm room, so make sure you check that out. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't, and have a great day.